Okay, Taz, so we're doing this, my friends. We are doing this
Yes.
finally. It's been
Mhm.
oh gosh, maybe I'll talk a little bit about how we met because that was just that was beautiful.
It was
So
magical.
I was at a I was at another
A
networking
co-working,
event. Yeah, at a
yeah, a
co-working
co-working
space.
space. Yeah.
And so I just remember getting out of the room that I was in, and you were standing there, and I can't even remember specifically how we got talking, but you had asked me about my business, and so that's
Yeah.
how we
I think I
connected.
complimented you on your coat first. That was the entry.
Oh, because I don't even remember what I was wearing. Oh, that's too funny. But yeah, we had a great conversation, and then I gave you my business card, and I remember it being around October 2022. That's what I remember. It
Yeah.
was fall, it was cold. And
Yeah.
then I think we had each other connected on Instagram, and then whatever, life happened for a few months, and then you connected with me again. So that was really nice back
Hmm.
in the spring of 2023, coming up
I
almost a
did.
year here. And we've been, hanging out ever since. But now you're in Ontario, so I'm just
Yeah.
glad to, to be able to still connect with you in so many other ways. But today's very important because not only are we going to talk about a very, kind of touchy subject, but it's Black History Month, so I want to celebrate my friends in the Black community. Um, and this is where I give the floor to you now. So please start telling your story, my friend.
Yeah, sure. I'm a little nervous, I have to say.
Uh, that's okay. I'm
But
here.
yes, I was like, okay, I'm nervous, but familiar face makes it a bit easier. So yeah, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
We are going to talk about a heavy topic, which is intergenerational trauma. Um, I guess let me start with kind of, I guess, letting my identities be known. So
Yes.
Somali, Canadian, first generation. 27 years old. Um, and spent multiple years in different countries throughout my adolescence. So, I speak Arabic,
Oh, wow. I
so
didn't know that. Wow.
yeah, yeah. Lived in the Middle East for a bit, and my family took me back, or not back, but took me there to kind of learn more about culture and more, instilling that Somali heritage within us,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
yeah, intergenerational trauma. I guess my story is that I think around 16, 17, that those are the kind of years that are very like,
Yeah.
you're just coming into your own and you're starting to
Yeah.
ask, the whys, right? You're like, okay,
Right.
what am I doing here? What does being Muslim mean to me?
Oh,
How do I view myself in the world? Like, so I kind of like had a lot of intersectionalities that I couldn't really put a name to. I couldn't articulate it. I think
yeah, that
for
makes
me,
sense.
yeah. So it's like moving to different countries really hindered my ability to, um, articulate my emotions very well. I think I was a late bloomer in that sense. So I
Okay.
felt all these emotions, but I couldn't like vocalize it. I didn't
Right.
have the self esteem and confidence. So those years were more so just a lot of ups and downs, but like no clue what's happening. And
Right.
then you get into the early 20s and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, okay. Like, I remember going to college is when I started to really, step into myself and I was a hijabi for many years. I don't know if I
Oh,
told you actually.
yeah. No, I don't
Um
think so. Wow. Just because I know who
yeah.
Taz is now, so yeah.
Yeah,
No, this
you
is a pretty
met
cool
me
story.
very, very post. So yeah, I was a hijabi and I was very like, very Muslim visible, but
Mm-hmm.
at 23 going into college, or being in college, I kind of decided to like put everything down and really start, putting pen to paper on who I am or what I've,
Right.
and exploring going into, different clubs and, having different friends of all walks of life. And,
Good for
you know,
you.
yeah, like just getting out of the echo chamber, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I struggled with mental health, which was, the anxiety and depression, that I
Yeah.
was feeling. And one book kind of like set the trajectory for my growth was it was called Awareness by Anthony DeMello. I don't know if you know that writer.
Oh wow. No, but that sounds good.
Yeah, I remember reading that book and I was like, okay, there's more to what I've been told, the script that I've been given,
Right.
of like you should do this or that. Like prior to reading that book, I thought my life was going to be a certain way, and it
Right.
was very boring because like you don't want to know. I think the
Yeah.
whole magic of life is that you don't know what's going to happen, right?
Right.
So after reading that book, everything kind of just I everything destructed, and I started
Mm-hmm.
to understand that there were things passed down from generations that was not stopped by certain generations, and I have to kind of bear all of that now. It's
Right.
with intergenerational trauma, like it continues on until somebody like breaks the cycle and is like, you
Right.
know what, like let me do some inventory and let me see what is serving me and what is not serving me, and how do I change those things that are not serving me into uh, a progressive an expression of some sorts,
Right.
so
Right.
so
Yeah.
I kind of did a lot of soul searching with, putting my story out there. I was fortunate enough to be in a group with, other Somali women who, we got into podcasting, we got into making videos, and, we were just like these young people who didn't know like what the consequences, I guess, of our actions were gonna be in a couple
Okay.
months, but
Yeah.
we were just like enjoying,
Yeah.
us just, being free and telling people our story and connecting with people online.
Yeah.
And then that kind of, took a turn when I guess, people self actualize into what they, want to be. And then people are in your life for a season kind of thing to teach you a lesson, and like
Yeah.
you go on to the next chapter. So we were
Right.
not, meant to carry on into each other's seasons. So yeah, and then I found myself in Edmonton with, the lovely Malida. Edmonton was like I think the first time I've ever reached stability in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and with stability, that allowed me to really get into those consistent habits that would, later on help me become more confident in my speech, have
Mm-hmm.
self-esteem and have unconditional love to self. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where my journey led me was
Right.
how do I how do I reconcile with the parts of myself that society or my family or people are
Mm-hmm.
telling me not to love, you know,
Right.
and hide. So
Yeah.
in Edmonton is really where, the first time I ever lived alone and was able to kind of hear my own thoughts. And, I was working from home. I was privileged enough to work from home. So, and, you bear a winter in Edmonton, I feel like you have the keys to life, you know? Like
Right.
-40, you're just like, okay, like I'm gonna have to deal with, whatever this
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I think that was so beneficial for me, and our
Mm-hmm.
our paths connecting. You helped me kind of get back
Oh,
into creativity
oh
and
my gosh.
just inspiration and ambition. I think
No, stop it.
down the line, no, I'll give you your flowers, but down the line I was very, I took a step back from all of that because
Mm,
I'm like, okay, I have to pay bills and I have to think about
yeah.
this, and all these kind of things come into immediacy
Mm-hmm.
and you have to take care of. So our path crossing was very, very, I have to say, like till this day, like I've made connections through you that like have just, helped me tremendously. And
Aw.
yeah, so I I love that we were able to kind of, work together in that brief
Yeah,
capacity that we did. And you made me go on to your interviews and kind of see the different people you were interviewing, and
yeah.
just being in that environment just kind of brought me up and my morale. So I really thank you for that.
Oh, you're so
Serious.
sweet. But I
Yeah.
remember a lot of the conversations that we had because uh, you and I being from the family of immigrants here to Canada, we there was a lot of things that you and I connected with and resonated with. And I remember one of the conversations being um first of all, like in me being from the Filipino community, um and I can't remember the gist of the conversation, but I do remember talking about how you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to get away from, not necessarily away, but you're in a country full of like this mix of so many cultures. Why can't you get out of that comfort zone and just learn about all these different people from different countries and even the indigenous culture, right? And just getting out of being a Filipino and learning that there's so
Mhm.
much more than what your culture is all about, right? And the fact that you know um, we grew up in this certain culture, but now we're in an environment where we can actually grow, right? Really grow to learn about um, just what this world has to offer instead of being in that bubble that we talked about, right? Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot more, freedom in like how you want to create your own reality, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, um, yeah, I think stepping out of the echo chamber really does a lot for your sense of self, because
Yeah.
you're not succumbing to the pressures of the group
Yes.
mentality. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like
That's a perfect
it
point.
if yeah, because if you're in an echo chamber, I mean, we know it's like you do some variation of a thing, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, but we don't do that here.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
everybody has to like stay in line with what their
Yeah.
what their culture is and what their
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
limitation is, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think creating our own reality. I mean, I'm heavily into spirituality as well, where that it grounds me, because it's like soul living a human experience. And it's
Right.
like when I think of it that way, it's like, okay, there's weights lifted off my shoulders.
Yes.
It's not like my body can only, do so much really. But
Yes.
when I'm connected to that tether of like there's something bigger than me,
Yeah.
I'm pulling from a greater source. And I think
Right.
it's very healing to know that. And just it changes my mindset altogether. and
Yeah.
and the way I kind of like I'm breaking the intergenerational trauma is
Yes.
through, I meditate, I journal, I don't let emotions consume me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's where the power is. It's like, how are you emotionally regulating? How are you,
Yeah.
regulating your nervous system? How are
Mm-hmm.
you, using your words to be conscious of, the
Mm-hmm.
intention you're setting within the people that you keep around you, right? So
Right. Right.
I'm much more like particular about where I put my energy, because
Right.
um I know it's very I'm a fragile person. I'm a highly sensitive person, you know? And I think there's a beauty to that. There's like
Yes.
because I feel the world and pain on just such a large scale. Like I
Mm,
can be close to somebody and I feel their pain, It's just
right.
you don't have to say anything, you just feel it. So
Yes. Yeah.
taking that time, and I showed you my little meditation session.
Yeah. It's
So
beautiful.
it's like I need that to step away from myself and not be rooted in ego, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
am I just telling myself ego stories about why this person doesn't like me, or am I taking things personal, or are people just acting out of their own understanding of themselves, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
not. I don't have to carry those burdens. So,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it made me, it makes me, I love myself when I'm kind. I love myself when I'm, speaking up for what I see is not right.
Right.
So I think for me, centering myself and having like a foundation to really come back to myself is a
Mm-hmm.
very important thing in just maneuvering through everyday life,
Right. Right. I have a question for you as you're talking, we are talking about your story. Being raised in the religion of being Muslim, and now you're being more spiritual, just like me. How
Yeah.
is it, how is your family, because from my experience and what I've seen, um, you know, uh families who are Muslim generally are how do you explain it? They're not welcoming to
Yeah.
other, right?
I
So
love the PR part of this. You're like
yeah,
very
but you know
sensitive.
what I mean? Because it's like how, and I know your family's actually
Yeah.
pretty supportive. And you guys went through a journey, especially with your mom too. So can you just touch a little bit
Yeah.
on how your family has been receiving Taz the way she is now? Because
That
I love that.
is,
Right? I love Taz. I love the spiritual Taz. But
yeah,
I know,
yeah,
like, especially with my family too, like my mom is also very religious too. So
yeah.
and I could see, how she's affected by the route that I've taken. So I like to
Mm.
hear about yours.
Yeah, I love how you asked that question. And I'm laughing because it was such a long journey to understand. I think,
Right.
yeah, I think it was such a long journey because one, it was all, so we speak about like the inner child, right? And
Yeah.
how the inner child wants to be seen and heard. And in the beginning of my journey, I was like very much in that hurt. I was like,
Mm.
why can't you see me? Why can't you
Yeah.
see the person that I'm becoming? Is it,
Yeah.
and also like lashing out because you're kind of like, oh, damn, like, do you really love me? Then you start to
Right.
question all of these, like,
Right.
having this existential crisis of like,
Yeah.
okay, what is love then? Like,
Yes.
is love conditional? Is love unconditional? And I went into a lot of actually searching about like what love
Mm.
is and how the healthy way of loving is.
Right.
So I think it was tumultuous for many years.
Right.
And lately it's been amazing because I let go. I was like, okay, I don't want to love you as I want you to be. Like, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want you to
Yes.
love you from a place of like you have to be this or you have to fit into this box
Yeah.
because like I'll just receive that love back,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
that's kind of what I was doing. So
Mm.
now with the letting go process, it's like, okay, I love myself and I know that and I know where I
Mm-hmm.
want to go. It's like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very kind and I'm gonna, love you from a place of unconditional love because
Yeah.
and working through those triggers, um, it just identifies what I need to heal within myself.
Right.
So
Right.
it goes back to the whole not taking anything personal. It's not my
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad or my siblings or they're just if I change the way I look at what they're saying to me,
Right.
then there's not that emotional charge.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like if they say a certain thing, I'm like, okay, but what did you mean by that? And it's
Right.
like, so through healing my inner child, I'm able to not come at them from a place of hurt, but a place
Right.
of curiosity.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think mm, I am very proud of how far I've come.
Yeah.
And also me seeing them in their own individuality. That's the beauty of it
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's with the work, it's really, I'm at a much better place right now with them.
That's good. Yeah, and I think about, going back to intergenerational trauma. It's like my mother grew up knowing that her mother, her mother
Yeah.
before her, that's what they grew up knowing. And we're
Mm,
in a time now where that doesn't fit for even our mental health, right? We're
yeah.
starting to it's coming to the forefront of
Yeah.
really being authentic, regardless of what background you're from, what
Mm.
diverse group you're from. Um, it's
Can I
really
ask
about,
you,
yeah.
can I ask you, how much of it do you think is like they're scared that you are going to, you know, they're not going to get, so they're gonna be scared of abandonment. How much of that is rooted in them thinking we're gonna leave them,
Right. Yeah.
do you
That's a good
think?
question. Because when
Yeah.
I think about, going back to my mother, it's like part of her is it's like that connection is kind of broken in her mind, right? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so you're not doing this, you're not doing this with me. And so I feel kind of alone in that sense. This is the way I'm thinking she's
Mm,
thinking. And I see that. I've seen her her expression of, I wish she came with me to do this, religious activity or whatever. Um, and it just yeah, I think she's at the point now where she's resorted to like, well, this is how it is,
mm,
right?
yeah.
But and there is sadness, I know that. However, I mean, I've talked to her a little bit about what I do. She knows I meditate too, so she leaves me
Yeah.
alone when I do that, sort of thing. So
Oh,
it's like,
nice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and just stuff like that. Sometimes I'm in the car when she's with me, and I'll put on some, not just meditative music, but certain audiobooks that I'm listening to that have to
Yeah.
do with that spirituality, and she's there listening. She doesn't
Yeah.
say anything, sort of thing, but um, I think it's obviously I'm thinking that she's accepted me because I think I like to think that love wins.
Mm,
Love wins even within the family. Yeah, we have all these different viewpoints, but what matters is that when when times are tough, when there's a situation, my grandmother's getting old. We thought
yeah.
she was going to die last year, but the family rallied together. So when
Mm,
it comes to the most important things, um,
showing up.
yeah, we all show up.
Yeah.
So you put
Yeah.
all those differences aside, if that makes
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's like it's making, not only is are these things, the spirituality or this new venture, like bringing you closer,
yeah,
it's like eh, there, it's also having an effect on us, and they see that,
yes,
it's like they see us move lighter, be
yes, yeah,
lighter, and it's like, okay, like,
happier and yeah,
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 joyful. And so it's like there's always that period of not understanding,
yeah,
but I think that's necessary for,
yeah,
reaping those fruits of your labor, at
yes,
the,
exactly. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
so you're saying now that your journey now everything's kind of moving forward with your family. And I do know, like, I met your uncle, and
Oh, yes, you
he's a
did.
lovely man, very accepting of who you are.
Oh, yeah.
What a beautiful soul he is. Tell me a little bit
Oh
about
my
him
goodness.
and your journey.
I love the fact that you met him. I'm actually gonna send him this once. Yeah. Oh man, he was in Edmonton, and funny enough, like I didn't even know like he lived there when I went there. Because I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie, like I went to Edmonton out of a
yeah.
series of unfortunate events. The universe
Right.
just wanted me to like
Yeah,
experience Alberta.
I remember that story. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm
So
glad
so
you stumbled upon the city.
I'm glad it was a breakthrough. Like love
Yeah.
love the city.
Yeah.
So yeah, my uncle actually, he's such a sweetheart.
Yes.
He actually had a lot of the same paths that I did, and
Wow.
he is like going through, dialysis, and he was like
Mm.
scared for a long part to kind of like, go on dialysis because, he was scared, but we found each other at the right time because,
Yeah.
the whole of summer we were just he would come over to my house and we'd go for a
Oh,
walk, go to the coffee shop. I mean, we would talk for 6 hours about like
wow.
sharing similarities, and him also, he veered away from
Yeah.
Islam for a long time and kind of
Mm-hmm.
was finding his footing and what all that meant to him, and
Wow.
he really coached me out of some really tough times. So yeah,
Great.
my uncle, I oh my goodness, I love him so much, and I'm glad you got to meet him.
Well, I was
He's
just thinking about that because, obviously,
yeah,
your family in Africa and your uncle, like, kind of
yeah.
very different, lives.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah. So
yeah,
he's one of the funner uncles. He's like, he
yeah,
understands everything. So
yeah.
he's been very monumental in my whole journey. So
Oh, wow.
it's been a great ride. I'm so lucky to have the people that I have around me because
Yeah,
I I'm so fortunate. I don't like I'm really present with, I'm grounded in gratitude. That's
right.
something that I don't take any of this for granted, and I appreciate it. I mean, I do compliment, over compliment, but that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I live every day like it's my last. So I'm like, I'm gonna
right.
say what I have to say to let you know,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
can do with that information what
Whatever.
you
Yeah,
need.
right
you
on.
know?
That's good. And that's being authentic, right? That's
Yeah,
being
yeah,
who you
yeah.
are. Who cares what anyone's, I struggle with that a little bit sometimes too. It's like,
You're
do I
like,
need to, how much can I say, depending on the setting? I totally agree with you, but I love that, you can be
yeah.
who you are when you're with me and vice
Oh
versa,
yeah,
right? I
yeah.
think you got to have those kind of people in your corner, and obviously your uncle is one of those. So that's so important that those are the
Big
people
ups
that
to
help you
him,
grow, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Totally
Uncle
awesome.
Yahya. He's
Yes, here. Cheers to
cheers
your
to
uncle.
Uncle Yahya.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Hmm. So yeah, so in talking about your journey and the heavy subject,
Yeah,
what haven't we touched on that you want to talk about? And then, let's go into to where you are today and the differences you're making today. Obviously, I enjoyed the company that you had brought to me when you were in Edmonton. I loved our conversations. That was really
yeah, yeah.
fantastic. And just to know that I didn't feel alone, going back to the community of where I came from, just because I grew up in Canada for most of my life since I was a baby. So, and I've actually went to school in the Philippines too. So,
Mm,
I see the differences there. Let's talk about where you are today now.
yeah, yeah. A great question. I mean, today um, I think the next topic here would be representation. So, like now, understanding what I know and like
Yes.
having a sense of identity and like direction. I
Yeah.
work with newcomers now,
Wow.
and it's very crucial that I understand the representation part of it, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you want to change the world, first you change yourself, and through you changing
Yes.
yourself you change your community and the people you're
Yeah.
around, and
Oh,
that touches a
oh
lot
my
of
God, that was
people, and
beautiful what
that's
you
kind
just
of
said. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So it's like I
Oh.
show up to work every day and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I have a sense of purpose because I'm like helping people who are just starting out into this country, and
Right.
they don't, they have like also such a beaming curiosity of like, okay, like what does Canada have for me? I'm like, some of them are leaving, some of them are refugees, immigrants, like we get all kinds of people, and I'm
Wow.
really able to pass down or pass on to, or um, my lived experiences. And it makes,
Yeah.
not only does it make me feel a sense of worth, it also, that representation of being Muslim, Black, woman,
Yeah.
like all those intersectionalities do matter when it comes to like a practical sense, right?
Right.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
that's kind of, and I love that I made the transition because I come from a marketing background and a bit more media, but with this, like I know, and you remember how I was like kind of struggling with that whole position, and
Yeah.
I just it was just like I knew something was missing, so transferring into this and coming back home to Ontario was kind of like I don't know. It was just like when you put on a glove, it just like fits so well,
Fits.
and you're just like, what?
Oh,
Okay, like this
yeah.
is what the universe
Yeah.
placed me here to do,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm gonna do right now, and I'm loving every day of it. Like every day, I
Wow.
wake up with purpose and just gratitude,
Yeah.
and it's eventful. Like
Yeah.
somebody passed their citizenship test and became a Canadian on Friday, and I'm
That's a big
celebrating
deal.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so those are the kind of things that happen every day at work that I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, I'm just surrounded by joy.
Yeah. And
So
it's like
yeah,
almost every those little steps and milestones are a big celebration. It's so awesome.
oh yeah,
Wow. Oh my gosh.
exactly. So being a part of that, I love
Yeah.
it so much. And
Yeah.
obviously, we have like secret projects in the
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still want to do something like we talked about within the podcasting realm
Right.
and
Yeah.
media and storytelling. So that's
Yeah.
definitely something I'm also
Yeah.
working on side by side for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, as you were talking about your, journey and, um, being at all these different places in the world, I think that's so important. And I like to encourage people to do that, getting out of their comfort zone, going to some place they've never been and being
Yeah.
curious about that, right? um and you, like, I mean, I didn't travel as much as you did. Oh my gosh, but look what those
Yeah.
travels and
Yeah.
living in these certain, different locations have created, for Taz. It's just amazing because I know, like, for myself, I moved to Calgary, for example. I was there for 10 years, and had I not been there, I probably would have been a different person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had struggles when I was in Calgary too, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I left. And but I needed to step away, from my
Yeah.
family and that life that
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah.
to discover who I really was.
The
So, oh my
perfect the
gosh.
perfect saying for that is you can't heal in the place that hurt you.
Yes,
Or broke
bang
you, whichever.
on.
Like that
Right.
is a perfect like I think that's why like I move a lot because I'm just like, okay, like but
Yeah.
also there you can definitely take that saying too
Yeah.
far, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's true. It's like you have to get in that environment
Yeah.
to really see what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a tornado, right? It's like you
Yeah.
can't get clarity in a tornado. So you're like,
You're right. Yeah, you are so right. I'm just going back to my experience. Like when I was in Calgary, I was towards the end of my time there and I didn't know what to do or how to go about it. But I had taken um kind of like have you heard of that author, the book, the movie Eat, Pray, Love? I call it
yeah,
that. That was
oh
that was
yeah,
my
oh yeah.
that was my that was
Eat,
my
pray, love era.
yeah, I had my Eat, Pray, Love trip, I guess you can call it that. So
Oh,
I got invited to a wedding in India. And I was like, I gotta get
oh
away. Yeah, I gotta get
yeah,
away from Calgary. So I took a month off,
yeah.
flew into London and then went to India. And that country, I would have never thought maybe 5, 10 years before that would ever go to that country. But because I made good friends with a man from India who was getting married, I thought, I'm just gonna do it, right? And so,
Exactly.
and I also had a friend in Dubai, so two different, like, different
Yeah,
environments, right?
climates. Oh yeah,
Yeah. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do it. And I
yeah,
am so glad I did because it just, like, India is a very spiritual place in general, right? They do a lot of meditation there. And so I just felt I came out of that trip becoming a very different person, and even more so focused on the spirituality, right? And I
Mm,
thought it was just it's so important, going back and encouraging people to get out of your
step
comfort
out of
zone,
it.
get out of what you know, because it may not be the right environment that you're
Mm,
supposed to be in, and then you might discover some things and grow. I'm all about, personal growth, right? So
yeah, yeah.
you and I are both that. So yeah, I love hearing your stories, the good, bad, the ugly, because it has created who Taz is. So
Yeah,
kudos to
it's
you.
you've gotta, with looking in the mirror, that comes with a lot. You have to appreciate all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, the ups
Yes.
and downs,
Yeah.
because it's like that's all of it,
All of it.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, so now you're venturing off into helping, making an impact with all these newcomers, and you're also thinking about doing the podcast. I know that it's going to
Yeah.
happen because you've talked about it so much. You're manifesting it. I know it's going to
Yeah.
happen, right? But I know
Yeah.
in your mind it's got to be perfect. So, take your time, woman. That's good.
I have to say perfection doesn't exist. I'm
Yeah.
learning a few things.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
I
Oh,
think
did I
I,
ever learn too during this podcasting journey? I hope you learned from
that's
my experience.
one thing I so commend you for, Melida. Like that's
Oh,
one thing I noticed about you. It's like I think you helped me with my sense
oh,
of perfection. Like, cause you would
oh,
like something would happen with the mic, or like, you're like, okay,
yeah.
but like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do. And you were just like, you don't really want it to be a certain way. You're just focused on doing it. You know what I mean? And I love that about you.
I was just thinking about that podcast with Robert. Remember how it
Oh
was like I have to cough, but we're recording. I don't know. And you know what? Talking about timing, right? Because when
my
I
yeah,
said, stop, and then you brought back, because we were having a great time at that session, but you kind of honed in like, hey, we got to get back and focus to the subject at hand. Otherwise, we're going to be here for 2 hours.
yeah, yeah. No,
That was beautiful. And I thought, like, I there was a reason for that cough. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
That cough
yeah,
had to happen. So
yeah,
little
yeah.
stuff like that. So I appreciate you, being there for me when all that it was happening.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you are just so tenacious and so determined, and like I love it. I love those traits of yours. So yeah.
So sweet.
No, you've been a great help in the whole perfection. And it's like, the podcast, what I'm understanding is it's not that I have a perfect image in my head. It's just that I think I'm just new into this whole personality and identity that I've
Ah,
created, and I'm like
good
enjoying
point.
my time so much with
Yeah.
the newcomers that it's
Yeah.
like I know I'm gonna do it, but I'm also a big, believer in timing as well. So
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
I know when the cards will
It'll
fall
come.
where they
Yeah.
lay,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Yeah. And
So
and
so
for
yeah,
you doing what you're doing now with the newcomers, I think it has to happen to shape what you are going to become when the podcasting happens.
there we go.
It's
There we
it's
go.
an important piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. You inviting me to this like podcast, this is a big step for me, It's like
Oh,
talking about my new self. That's a big
yeah.
deal. So
Well, and to
there's
me, it's
there's
just like we're having a conversation, right? So
yeah, yeah,
we're just
yeah.
recording the conversation.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. No, it's we could talk for like 2-3 hours.
Totally.
We've covered
Yeah.
some ground.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we go, I do want to ask you obviously important question, that matters to me because you're my friend. And so what is it that matters to Taz? What's the most important? What matters to you, Taz?
I love this question when you always ask it. I think what matters to me is love and kindness. I think those are the two traits where I'm like, oh my goodness, that it's divine. When I
Yeah.
see kindness and I see love and embracing and acceptance, and and yeah, those are the two traits that I'm like, I love, and I love, helping people, and just kind of extending your resources.
Yeah.
We call it don't gatekeep. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Stop gatekeeping your love.
Yeah.
Stop hoarding it.
Yeah.
Just give it.
Yeah.
When you give, and you're giving, the universe gives you an abundance. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's so special. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for this time, Taz.
yeah.
I'm looking forward to when you do start your podcasting, and I hope to see you in person again soon, in the future.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Summer, I might come to Alberta. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just in my meditation era.
Yeah,
I'm just
for
like
sure.
I'm in, a
Yeah.
solitude and service, and
Oh.
but but yeah, thank you so much for having me. This means the world to me, and I
Oh, it
don't,
means the world to me too. Thank you.
yeah, and definitely you're somebody I definitely look up to, and thank
Oh,
you for just existing, being yourself.
oh,
Just you are just funny, so just keep
that's
keep that intact. So
thank you,
yeah,
thank you.
I love you, Malida.
I love you too. Thank you.